All right. Why don't we just get this thing going?
Yeah, let's jump right into it. So, hey everybody. I'm Rob, your host. This is episode 54 of the Update Log. Joining me are Matt and Greg, my co-hosts, as usual. And tonight, and depending on where you're watching from in the world, we're gonna jump right into a couple of topics, namely, what sells games in today's day and age? Like what are the defining factors on what really help a game do well? Um, uh, Now there is a kind of prevalent thought running around the internet lately where I kind of asking the question, are graphics the main thing that sell a video game? And eh, actually, the general consensus is no. There are some statistics out there, and again, you got to take these with a grain of salt. But apparently, one of the most defining factors for whether or not someone will buy a game, and it's about 66%, give or take, is the price. How much they're gonna have to shill out for that game. And typically nowadays for everybody, we all know about $60 is the asking price for most, I guess, what we would classify as AAA games.
Yeah, and indie games kind of fall outside that pricing range. You won't find many indie games priced that high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting topic to discuss because honestly, there's like no one thing. What makes a game like appealing to people is a lot of things put together. Like the price that you said, the gameplay, the graphics do matter. They are a part of it.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
like as we're kind of like discussing right now, is that graphics aren't all there is to it. Like there's some games out there that are visually stunning, and like it's an amazing spectacle to behold. But is that all that it really needs? Of course not. There's like I think one of the things that helps a lot is taking a lower graphic fidelity, but working on the presentation so that without looking too closely at the details, kind of see where like maybe textures are pixelated or you can see the polygons, but this broader view where something can still look absolutely amazing without being like extremely detailed down to like if you put a microscope up to it.
Yeah, and that's one of the pieces that was kind of brought up is, you look at games, and Matt, we've played it. Monster Hunter Wilds. If you zoom in on those character models, unless especially if you don't have the high texture pack, it looks like ass.
Yeah,
when you start
Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter World. Not to confuse any people into thinking that Wilds is already out. It's not.
It's not. Did I say Monster Hunter Wilds?
You did.
Okay, Monster Hunter World's my bad. But yeah, Monster Hunter World, this is ass. But even with the high texture pack, it still looks rough. But again, I'm not like trying to be negative about it. It's just that's typically what happens when you have a high poly count game that tries to do or get as close to what's called that like photorealistic, avenue. It's especially on older engines, it's just not going to work. It's not going to look that good. However, if you zoom out, if you play as was stated, if you play at the distance and perspective that the game is meant to be played as, it's absolutely beautiful. Probably one of the best looking games I've played in a long time.
Oh yeah,
and that's just one example.
Yeah, Monster Hunter does a wonderful job at making each level seem like a actual like ecosystem.
I guess I don't.
Monsters, all these little monsters, the plants and everything. It's all about the presentation of how it's presented to you. Like when you look at the big picture, like what you see on your screen.
You're welcome.
It looks amazing. It's just like, and that, I think that's kind of like the greater goal to have, rather than like I'm not saying no one should make those super detailed things, because it's still great to see from time to time, but it is like a huge. It does add to the budget a lot when you go that detailed.
And that's really not typically, but that's really the issue. I feel when we're talking about specifically graphics, it's where you have studios that are trying to crank out the best possible graphics, at like right here, distances in terms of like if you're zooming in, they're like right here you can see every single strand of hair and whatnot. I mean, you have like stuff like ray tracing and all that jazz and volumetric fog and all that stuff, but it's trying to make it as realistic and as cinematic as possible for both PC and console. But no, that doesn't really. I mean, most players, we enjoy it. It's a nice ribbon feature. It's a nice aesthetic, but in reality, we really don't care.
Welcome in, buddy.
Yeah, well, I think it's less that we don't care, more that like we only care so much. Like,
okay, that's a better.
When I see a game that like it looks good, I like that. Like I like being wowed by something that looks really good. Like, like the games coming out of the Final Fantasy franchise these days, like 16 or the 7 remakes.
You're welcome.
They look absolutely stunning.
I'm going to drop my 2 cents in here really quick. I think it's all.
Okay.
I think it's all bullshit.
You think it's all bullshit?
I do.
Oh, here comes the old man. Back in my day, we
Yeah.
had Pong, and we were happy with that.
Damn.
Listen here, you youngster. You're still wet behind the ears. Back in my day, we walked to school both ways uphill, son. I didn't have no shoes either. Anyway, so yeah, here's the thing with this. Graphics are neat. I mean, and for a long time that was the push, the continually growing the graphics piece and getting better and better and better with that. But the thing is, price also important, and
yes.
in a big way, because people just don't have that, $70 on a game. I mean, it's, for some people, not a big deal, but I would say for the vast majority of people, especially if you're in a situation, I mean, there's a reason why check for cash is a big business and, all that bullshit. People just don't have that money. And you've got to make decisions. Am I eating macaroni and cheese or ramen noodles so I can have this game?
Yeah.
And so price, very important. And we're to a point now, and yeah, ray tracing is cool. I absolutely love what they've done with some of the newer games. Phantom Liberty 2077, fantastic, beautiful game. But is it worth 70, 80, or even 100 or more dollars? And I think at this point the market overall says no. There's still some people out there that are more than happy to pay for that visual stimulation, and they have the money to do so. But I think the vast majority of folks are looking at these games and saying, hey, you know what? I can deal with a little less, or maybe even not so great graphics. And look, you can tell that by some of the games that are doing very well right now. Some of the indie games that are doing very well right now, and the graphics are garbage. I mean, they just suck. And look at some of the other things that are out there that are really, really popular. One right at the top of my name, at the top of my head, I can picture it. I just can't name it. There's a bunch of games out there that the graphics are garbage. They're 1980s, maybe late 80s graphics. Very blocky, chunky stuff. Looks like prototype version of the first Mario Brothers game. But they're doing well. And why are they doing well? Predominantly because of the price. And then the third factor in there is story. Is there actually something going on that can keep you engaged and keep you entertained? And the problem with a lot of the really high-end graphics games, yeah, they've got some amazing cut screens, and you can see the individual hairs, and they really go into great detail to make these characters the Greek gods and goddesses. They're absolutely gorgeous, perfect bodies, figures, beautiful eyes, whole thing, no blemishes. And then the scenery, fantastic. But then all the stories in these cut screens that you can't interact with, you just sit here and it's like watching a movie. And I mean, if I want to watch a movie, I'm going to go watch a movie. I want to play a game, I want to play a game. Not, I the best of both worlds, maybe to some. To me, not really. I don't want to watch a bunch of cutscenes, and I think a large amount of people just kind of skip through the cutscenes. You maybe watch them once, and then after that, it's like, okay, I've had enough of this.
About Metal Gear Solid 4's 71-minute cutscene.
Yeah.
Insomnia.
So thanks, Old Man Garrus. We've no, go ahead.
Well, Insomnia says he's got homework for us.
All right. I'll get to Old Man Greg.
I do know about
Old Man Garrus. Old Man Greg. Jesus, I'm sorry, Greg. I called you an old man. Old Man Garrus. I'll get to your thing in a minute, but thank you for that. And wait.
Wow.
I'm not trying to post the link.
Yeah, got timed out. Okay.
Yeah. I do know about Pirate Software. I've seen a few clips of him talking. He's a pretty smart guy. He does have some interesting insights here
Okay, let's see what we got.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that really sell games. The visual presentation is part of it, but I think there's a lot to be said about stylization of the art style of the game and how that can like really extend how well the game ages as far as the way it looks. Because if you try to go for like a realistic, kind of realistic look, like as time goes on and the technology advances, you'll see just how bad that realistic look used to be. We have stylistic approach. There's no real like, you're not trying to be realistic. You're trying to do an entirely different thing. So there's a good chance that it will age a lot better. Like, if you ever looked at like Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, that's a GameCube game, but it still honestly looks pretty good by today's standards. They weren't trying to be super realistic. They did something very unique with its art style. Wasn't appreciated at its time, and I'll admit I'm one of those people. But like, as time went on, I'm like, damn, that game really was good.
There was a point. There was a point where graphics were the focus, where better and better graphics were the focus, and there also was a point where the graphics were used to enhance the story and engagement. I don't see that as much anymore. It's not. It's more about trying to make everything look so realistic, and it looks good, but it's just the story's flat, the engagement's flat. You end up spending hundreds of millions of dollars on developing this aesthetically pleasing game that has no spirit to it at all. It's not engaging. It's you probably get 8 hours worth of playtime and you're done. What is that? Is that truly worth the $80? And honestly, even going beyond that, is it worth the hundreds of millions they're putting into it to develop it? I don't think so.
No, it's not. Like, and people, again, there have been multiple creators and folks who kind of follow, doing similar things that we do, and a lot of them have said, and even I've read a lot of the comments on some of their work, some of the videos they've put up.
I forgot about those. Sorry about that, Garrus.
Oh yeah, quadruple games. Yeah, we're not talking about quadruple.
Luckily, there's only one of them.
That's right. There's only one so far, so it's a small pool.
Until GTA 6 comes out. Actually, no, just go past. That's going to be a quintuple A game.
Damn, man, you just shooting for the fences, huh?
Look, that thing is budgeted like $2 billion. I'm saying we're skipping an A there.
every time you bring up how much that is valued at, or the proposed production, blows my fucking mind. $2 billion is ridiculous, but I don't want to get off on a tangent. So Old Man Garrus,
might as well.
Might as well, right? Old Man Garrus actually sent me something which I posted in the chat. Apparently, according to the Steam Deck and some stats from there, and this ties directly into the conversation we're having, the games that have been most played on the Steam Deck in 2024, with the exception of Baldur's Gate 3 and Helldivers 2, all came out, we'll say, about 3 or more years ago. Well, with the exception of Vampire Survivors, that came out last year. And I think the rest of them came out more than 3 years ago. Some of them more than almost 10 years ago.
And that's the one I was thinking of earlier, Garrus, is Stardew Valley, because
Stardew Valley.
That game is
a fantastic game.
It's garbage.
Yeah.
What are we talking?
Do you want to rephrase that?
What did we spend? No, I do not want to rephrase that. What did we spend 15 minutes talking about? Graphics. And the graphics in that game suck. Horrible. But if you back up 20 years, they're actually pretty good.
I wouldn't say. Here's the thing. I'm actually going to disagree with you on that. I wouldn't say Stardew Valley's graphics sucks. They're not stylized. They're not style. I wouldn't classify them as stylized because they're not similar like Mario or Zelda or what have you. But they do point to a niched audience that's actually not so freaking niche because tons of people still play that game and get similar games like Terraria and other 8 and 16-bit games.
Here's the thing. I say the graphics suck, and I mean that, and I'll stand behind that 110%. I don't care. I've got no fucks to give in that space. But
fair enough.
Here's the thing. It's an engaging game. So at the same time that I say graphics suck, I mean, plenty of people love that game. Absolutely love it because it's an engaging game. So the graphics in that sense don't matter.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, what's it cost?
Absolutely.
What do you pay for that right now? If you go get that off of Steam, what is that right now? Was it like
I know Terraria was
$10
on a sale.
or something?
Let's see, Stardew
Something
Valley.
like that. It's probably like 10, maybe $20. But I know Terraria, which is again an 8-bit game.
$15. And think about
Yes.
the time that people put into playing that game.
The replay value.
Wow.
I know you're definitely getting money's worth with that game.
Yeah.
What I see is like this. Honestly, I think Once Upon a Time advancing, the visuals mattered a lot more than it does now. Because like, go back in time when you had like, 3D models were extremely just low polygon. Think of like Lara Croft's, triangle tits.
Right.
Like how they could barely do like even facial expressions,
right?
And like there's a level where advancing the graphics, what games like on computers or consoles could even do, could enhance the storytelling by letting the characters and all this stuff be more expressive, to actually kind of like tell you what's going on without them having to rely on text explicitly to tell you. You can see it on their face. You can see it like the way they're animated. But I think also we've been at that place for a while now.
Yeah.
Where, there's so much higher above that we've gone by that still. But I think it's like talking about kind of game like diminishing returns for how well the game like looks visually and how much that really affects the overall game itself. Because on one level, if it looks like absolute dog water, and I mean not just like its style, whether it uses like a pixel style or whatever, but if it just looks ugly, then that's going to drive a lot of people off. Like a visual smorgasbord in front of your eyes, just make you like strain your eyes trying to look at the game. That'll definitely chase people off. 7 Days to Die. I play 7 Days to Die, but I do know it runs like shit. You need
it runs like absolute dog water.
What?
7 Days to Die runs like absolute ass. It looks.
That's what I've heard.
I like the look of it. It's not the best graphically, but I do like the look of it. I like the
You
style.
want to try again? You want to try that again?
I didn't fucking stutter. I said it runs like ass, and it looks like it's from before 2010. Come on, man. If you're gonna shit on Stardew Valley, like graphically speaking, come on. You gotta be able to take them lumps too. I love the game.
Go for it. Lay it on.
I love the game. But yeah, I mean, again, this goes to the heart of but says, wait. So Stardew Valley is shit, but 7 Days to Die.
I haven't actually said anything yet, Garrus.
That's the hill he's gonna die on, old man Garrus. Can you believe that shit? But yeah, and again, I know we're focusing on graphics, but that's typically the biggest, at least right now, quote unquote, feature that people are looking for. Is this the next big, game-defining, graphically intensive game that you need a fucking supercomputer to run. And I think a lot of studios, especially at the AAA level, are really focusing on that kind of one feature. Where, as you said earlier, Matt, and I agree with you, as players, we care, but not that much.
Not to the level that they think, because when you get to that level of like super detail, that's adding a lot on like the cost of the project. So suddenly the game has
Oh
to
yeah,
make a
yeah,
lot more money to become profitable. Like again,
yep,
think of Marvel Spider-Man 2. That game did fantastically, but it was also considered a financial failure because its budget was so high, and that was a very beautiful looking game. Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, beautiful looking games, absolutely
yeah.
stunning. But Sony has been disappointed uh, by their financial performance, which is one of the reasons why Sony is thinking about opening up several of their games to multi-platform.
I haven't played a
Yeah,
Final Fantasy game in a long while.
Me
But
either, actually.
I
Me
got
either.
one more comment to add about 7 Days. That game would be absolutely fantastic if the merchant slips would move when they talk. That whole idea of just this straight faced, no features at all, and they're talking to you is little disconcerting.
maybe
Yeah, a
they're
little bit,
expert
a little
ventriloquists.
bit. Maybe you might be right, Matt. You might be right.
It's
Maybe.
the it's kind of like hidden lore in the game. Not many people know.
They're all every single person in the game is a ventriloquist. Every single person. That's
Exactly.
impressive. That's impressive. I just dropped another link. Thanks, courtesy of Old Man Garrus. But again, so we
Uh,
went from the Steam Deck to
I think you
You
posted
Steam
the wrong link.
charts.
you
Was it?
posted the wrong link there, brother.
Did I screw up the link? Did I? Hold on, let me see.
That's
Yeah,
all right.
I was gonna delete that message.
Yeah, just delete that.
That do it. What do you?
There's the link.
Why is this not
Ugh.
deleting?
Here, let me see if I can delete my own message. I don't know if I can't. Nope.
Like I'm at the thing where it says delete. If I drag it further, I'd like time you out for a certain amount of time.
God, go ahead, time me out. Fuck it. See what happens.
Okay, let's 1 second. Okay, why is that not working either?
I don't worry about it. Leave it.
It's not a big deal.
Okay. Whatever.
Anyway, but yeah, that second link, not the first one, it shows exactly, again, corroborates pretty much everything. Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, PUBG, these are all games that have come out. I mean, Dota 2 and Counter-Strike 2 are old. Even though Counter-Strike 2 is quote-unquote new, it's based off of the old Counter-Strike engine. PUBG's old, Destiny 2, like all these games in the top 10 are all fairly old games. Stardew Valley's up there as well. Are all pretty old games, again, with the exception of Baldur's Gate 3 and I guess Football Manager 2024, but that's not really a graphically intensive game. Yeah, pretty much Helldivers 2 and Baldur's Gate 3 are the most recent, really graphically intensive games on the Steam charts. And the Steam charts is a pretty good, relevant number. What the fuck? Wait a minute.
Insomnia and I got talking about porn games, and I guess he's
Oh
listing
boy.
off his catalog to us.
Yeah.
Okay. You outing yourself there, buddy?
But no, I mean, it's weird to say, but that is also somewhat pertinent to this conversation. As
yeah, that is
what
actually
sells games, and you know what? The age-old proverb works: sex sells.
Sex sells. Yeah. Me and Matt
Like, that
watched.
is one thing that can really sell a game,
Yeah, we watched it was a video that was the research was done on a platform that outscales and classes the number of users on Steam by, I think, was it like 3 times or something like that?
I don't
It's
know how accurate that is because
yeah, it could be a bit of an
I could find very
exaggeration,
little information about this
but basically
platform.
it's a platform that is predominantly rated R X themed games almost exclusively, and they have almost I think again take it with a grain of salt, but we'll say double the amount of users that Steam does, and Steam is global. So again, one of the other aspects, what sells games? Sex, sex. That's what sells. And I mean, you've seen it with the Stellar Blade issue, that you had individuals on one side of a particular line were getting upset that the female models were showing too much, too much, and the developers went in and put like coverings in certain places to kind of show less skin. People were pissed off about it. People were pissed off about it. We're like, "Yo, give my money back!" And as soon as they, as soon as that started to hit their sales, and they kind of retracted all the covering up, they started to get more money again. I don't know, man.
Well,
It's
there's a key piece in that goes beyond the surface stuff that we're talking
true,
about, because
true.
the stuff that we're talking about right now is, that's why I say it's all bullshit. It doesn't matter. It honestly does not matter. And I think by the games that we've referenced so far, we only prove that point, because you're going from the high end graphics with Final Fantasy, and there's other games out there that do a really fantastic job, but Final Fantasy has always been known for what they do with the graphics and making beautiful games. And then you go all the way to the opposite end with the story, the creative piece to it, with Stardew Valley and something like 7 Days to Die. But the one thing that is important in selling games, period, and this is what it really comes down to, is making games, is figuring out what people want. Once you get a game out there, don't do what you do well and continue to do what you do well. Don't try to, there's this idea out there that you have to market your game to everybody. And I'm not saying don't market your game to everybody, but make your game with specific things in mind. If you're going to make a shooter, then make sure that you're focused on that aspect of your game. Yeah, add some story in there, add some decent graphics in there, but don't make a shooter game that tries to appease everybody that's going to possibly even see it. Go after your audience and produce something that they want to play. That's I think every game is the same thing. You create something that people want to play. What is a part of the reason why Baldur's Gate 3 did so well? What do you think that is?
because it's a fantastic game with absolutely fucking amazing story
And
gameplay.
and gameplay.
and gameplay. Yeah,
And it's a very close proximity to actually playing D&D. Proximity, I think that's probably the word I was looking for. But it mimics the actual play of D&D, like as a tabletop game, very, very well. Obviously it's still a video game, but that was the core audience that they were aiming for, is the people who love the world and love D&D and wanted a video game that they can play D&D on their computer. That's what they wanted to see, that's what they wanted to have, and that's exactly what Larian created. So fantastic. Don't F it up. Don't mess with it.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to how many people try to appeal to it, it's not a bad idea to try to cast a wide net, but when you try to cast that net so wide that you're trying to catch anybody with it, then you're stretching yourself too thin, and kind of what was that? Was that age old saying about trying to chase two rabbits and because of that losing both?
Yeah.
I wish I could remember exactly how it goes, but essentially, when you're trying to chase too many things at once, you end up losing it all. And I think that goes the case with how wide an audience you try to appeal for.
If you
Again, like if you make your appeal too niche, you're probably not going to find much, success, since it's that niche. But if you try to appeal to absolutely everybody, well, there's so many different people in everybody. So it's gonna be impossible to appeal to all of them. And when you try to appeal to everybody, you try to be as safe as possible, try to take as few risks as possible, and then it ends up being boring.
It boils right down to, you have to focus on who you want to appeal to, because if you're focused on trying to appeal to everybody, you're not going to appeal to anyone. Simple as that.
Pretty much.
You throw that net so wide that you catch nothing, and you're not going to have a successful game, because it's mediocre at best to everyone that touches it, because it's not focused on anything that they really are. There's every one of us has things in our lives that really engage us, that really get us. You know what I mean? Some of us like fantasy novels. Some of us, apparently Insomnia has a thing for porn or something like that. I don't know. But, we all have our thing. Sorry about that, Insomnia.
Listen, we don't kink shame here.
We all have our thing. And that's just, you got to try to focus in on what is going to appeal. And do you have to focus on a niche? Sure you do. Or maybe a couple of niches that are close in proximity. But, you throw that wide net out there and you're just not gonna, I think one of the references that I was listening to really kind of told it this way when it come to, when they're doing the market research piece to it. If you ask 100 people and those, to rate your thing, your piece of art from 1 to 10, and you get 100 answers that are like 5, 6, 4 to 7, we'll say, then it's garbage. You don't want it. But if you get 50 answers that are 1, 2, and 50 answers that are 9, 10, that tells you what? That it's memorable, it's impactful. It's going to create an experience. You're either going to love it or hate it, but that's the point behind it.
Yep. And I agree. Like you see what you just said there, Greg, about and what Oman Garris mentioned in the chat. Knowing your audience, you see that in. Ironically enough, the world's first and oldest game studio, Nintendo. They don't care about what anybody else is doing. They don't change up what they're doing unless it's to improve upon it. But they have a distinct style. They have a distinct, theme that they go for in a lot of their games, and they stick to that. And they're still going strong.
Oh yeah, because you have Xbox and PlayStation. Essentially, they're trying to do the same thing, and they're in constant competition with each other. Then Nintendo is off in the corner doing its own thing and thriving because they're the only one doing it over there. Like Nintendo, it has its issues as a company. They're heavy-handed at times, I guess you could say, but they still make types of games that you don't really see others making, especially in the AAA.
You really don't.
The good thing there is the fact that they're still doing their own thing. The unfortunate piece and this isn't isolated to the games industry by any means, but the unfortunate piece is that there's this pack mentality where you kind of follow the leader. It's okay to go and get fresh new ideas by looking at other people's stuff. That's fantastic. Go read other people's stuff. Go play other people's games. Go do that. Here's the thing. Don't just be a robot and take what they do and then do that.
Mhm.
That's it. Have a little ingenuity.
Yeah, little
You know,
little uniqueness about yourself. Don't
it-
follow what everybody else is doing. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the very first things I learned in my education for game design is that like it's okay to use something as inspiration, but you gotta put like a different twist on it to make it like unique. You know, so like I mean, like an example of someone that failed to do this because there have been games that have come along from time to time that try to be Pokemon. One game in particular that I recall, Temtem, it came out. They pretty much it was just Pokemon. Like they, of course, the like some of the types and like the monsters were different, but overall it was pretty much the same experience. And
It's
because of that,
basically
like
Pokemon.
it launched, people played it for a bit, but very quickly did I stop hearing about that game because they were just
Oof.
trying to be Pokemon. Compare that to Power World, where they definitely have that Pokemon influence, but they do like all sorts of other shit like that.
They took it in
It,
a
they
strange new direction.
they have Pokemon influence for those creatures like 100%, but that game is not Pokemon, not in the slightest.
No, yeah,
And like I that game got so much attention, and like the attention has died down a little by now, but I still hear about it from time to time. It's like people are still interested in it. They took something as inspiration and put a unique spin on it. So that like this, you're not finding this anywhere else.
right.
no, absolutely not. And that's what has led to the success, or especially the initial success of like Power World. I mean, even games like Helldivers 2. They're very obviously there are various elements that add to success, but again, they're not trying to homogenize. They're not trying to do the people that are behind the decision making process at those studios are not trying to do what everybody else is doing. They're not trying to make the quick, easy buck. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But if everyone's doing it, then again, everyone's doing it. So you're not going to stand out unless you already have a dedicated player base to your game. And honestly, that's another factor that can sell a game is the name of the studio. I remember the days when Blizzard was at the top of the hill. And just the
We
fact
thought
that
they could
Blizzard
do
came
no
out,
wrong.
and just the fact that Blizzard was coming out with the game probably had people pre-ordering or at the time standing out in line in front of GameStop, you know, 2 days ahead of time, not showering, living in a fucking tent, ready to buy the game as soon as the doors open. So that is another a factor, and I think to studios like Larian Studios, like CDPR, and I'm gonna still put CDPR in that category, Arrowhead Game Studio, and those studios that are building that reputation, that's another factor that they can leverage to sell their game. I
Yeah,
think,
they're just the name brand alone and like
yeah.
the goodwill it carries. That's one thing that I think limits uh, a lot of indie games that I think deserve so much more than they have because they're they're small fish in a big pond. They don't have that like brand, like they don't have that brand that people can recognize. They don't have that same reach. Like there are tons of good games I have on my Steam library, or like games I've seen others play, and it's like this is fantastic, this is phenomenal, and like so few people play that, compared to like
Mm-hmm.
the latest AAA flop, because that the ability to advertise and just be a recognizable name is massive, honestly.
Hmm.
For the amount that's being spent, though, I think I don't think that the brand piece is necessarily stable enough to carry these games. That's
not alone.
yeah.
Not alone. I mean, like, people are excited when when like a developer studio that they like is coming out their next game. Yeah, like you probably not hear anything about it. Like, oh, it's from these guys. Okay, I'm a bit excited. I'll when Larian announces their next game, they may not even say what it is yet. Just say, hey, we got something in the works. Be excited. I'm like, you got me. All I need to hear was Larian. I'm in. So it does carry a lot of weight.
For all the complaining that people do, Bethesda.
True.
I think some of that
Very
is
fucking
waning.
true.
I think some of it is waning by now, but like before Starfield, I would say, because Fallout 76 was a hit to that, but Fallout 76 is also different from what they normally do. Where Starfield was kind of like in that vein of what they normally do. But
by normally do, you mean just taking the same old game engine and giving it a paint job, and putting out a game? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's what they normally
kind of,
do.
yes. Because like, you have back in the day, you have. Now I played Morrowind, I played Oblivion, I played Skyrim. I played Fallout 3, New Vegas, Fallout 4. There was a time when Bethesda was killing it, and I was like, damn, I can't wait for what they do next. And sometimes there are lessons when you should really be careful what you wish for.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd say by now, once upon a time I was super excited for Elder Scrolls 6. Whenever that comes out, I'm starting to maybe think, it may not come out my lifetime. But once upon a time, I was very excited.
Hey, as long as they're still making money off of ESO, you're probably right.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm no longer excited for that game. Like once upon a time, just hearing Bethesda was making another game, I was like, yeah, I'm into it. And now, after seeing how things have gone recently,
I haven't even tried.
They lost the trust, I guess you could say.
I haven't even tried Starfield yet, so.
Yeah, it was I will admit to.
Well, I mean, I bought Phantom Liberty 6 months ago, and I still haven't played that. So I mean, kind of.
Fair enough.
Look,
fair enough.
Granted, I haven't played it either, but I've seen clips, and I know that modders, because that Bethesda games have usually very strong modding communities.
Mm-hmm.
Look at mods for Skyrim or the Fallout games. Very active communities. Yep. Starfield, modders kind of given up on that game in large part. And I think that's definitely a sign, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, if the modders don't even want to do anything with it.
Yeah. There was a group that had made multiplayer mods for some of the other Bethesda games.
Yep.
They were doing one for Starfield, and they stopped. And they straight up said, "This game's boring. We don't want to make this mod anymore."
Well, that
may not be verbatim, but that's essentially what they said.
There's still 2 large-scale projects that are out there for Fallout 4, which are the DLC level mods. They're not actual DLCs, but they are DLC size mods. One of them is Fallout Miami.
Oh, and Miami. I forgot there's Miami as well.
And then Fallout London. Yes. Fallout London's more of a sure deal. Miami has been a project that's been in the works for several years now, and it kind of quieted down as we went through COVID. But it's still out there, so maybe we'll get to see that. Rob, what happened to you? There you are.
I don't know.
Gotcha.
Streamlabs hit me. So I got a question for our audience. We've been talking about kind of what sells and what doesn't. What to the audience, the guys listening in, what grabs you with a game? What is it that kind of makes you want to purchase a game?
That's a dangerous question to ask with insomnia
That is a
in
dangerous
the audience.
question. That's what I'm asking.
What grabs you, Mike?
Like for me, personally, I care most about like gameplay. Like right now, I'm playing
Welcome in,
XCOM
TCAT.
2 again, which if you played XCOM 2,
Quality.
is not particularly the best looking,
XCOM?
or does it, have like what you'd call a fantastic story. Its story is extremely simple, but it's all about playing the game. It's all about the gameplay. You know, the strategy when you're in battles, or how you go about outside of battles with your research, building your base, building your items, all that type of stuff.
See, you're talking about the XCOM games, right?
I am.
Well,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, he's been playing it for a while, actually.
I have those as well. The original XCOM game, which actually I think the original one was on the Super Nintendo, I think. But that game, poor. I actually have that game as well, but it's got, again, the graphics thing. Yeah. But it actually, the original game is a better play than the new one. Is. And I think the issue, my issue anyway, with the new one is that it's a very linear storyline. So that's where you get that sense that you don't have a good story, because it's like you're kind of forced through the story. Where the original game was a little more wide open. As long as you did certain things to keep the factions or the nations of the Earth happy, it could go on for a long, long time. Where the new one's kind of designed to lead you in a particular direction.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like for me, I think it's a fantastic game, and like as you said, like the story for XCOM 2 isn't even that much. War of the Chosen helps a lot. The expansion, when they add the Chosen, the story with those three. But I also mod the shit out of that game, and that just adds so much more.
I haven't played it. No, I've got it on my Steam account. I haven't played that in a long time.
It's a game I go back to like every couple of years. XCOM 2. Usually I find like a new mod pack to play with it, and somehow manage to get that working, and then I go, and it's just really good. Again, it's all about the gameplay for me when it comes to especially XCOM.
So TCAT says quality is what grabs her when it comes to games. So I have to agree 100%, but I also am curious what do you mean by quality, TCAT? If you could, just expand on that a little bit, that would be awesome. Sorry, Matt.
Is that like I guess like polish to a game? Like it's not like a buggy mess, I guess.
I think I think everybody's idea of quality could be different. I think I know what she means. Production usually. Okay. I think you were kind of headed down that path, Matt.
Pretty much like having a well polished game does matter a lot. It's like, I mean, Cyberpunk 2077's launch was disastrous because it had zero polish. That shit was rough around the edges, to put it lightly. Yep. It's one thing I've actually always kind of praised Nintendo for, because very rarely have I seen a Nintendo game that just doesn't work. I guess like one of the recent exceptions to that rule, like Pokemon Scarlet Violet, that game was not polished. We're talking about like visuals and stuff, how much they matter and how much they don't. I'd say in that game's case, it really did matter. It looked so bad.
That is true.
All right. There we are. So that was interesting. Okay, hold on to your seat. All right. So yeah, I'm having a little bit of connectivity issue tonight.
Huh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
No good.
No, no good. No good at all. I think we're stable for the moment.
All right. Well, that's good news.
So here we go.
All right, back to it. So like for me, gameplay, the kind of like TK was just talking about, the quality, like the polish. You know, there's a game that just doesn't work is very frustrating, especially when you see like the potential it otherwise could have. I've had games that I wanted to.
Okay. No, you're fine. I'm not sure what's going on tonight. We are just struggling with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, we're having some technical difficulties, folks.
And I'm not sure that it's mine because I seem to be